He never watched it. Theft never watched King Carter's like official response video.
I got banned from his Discord server at some point, and then I got let back in, and then I immediately got banned again. So I've been banned from his server twice. He will do this thing where he bans people from using their name.
You're the first person to you're the first content creator really to learn about all of these things.
Strap in, boys, girls, and all of the spawns of darkness, because we're back at it. Quick introduction for all those unfamiliar with the YouTuber known as Theft King. He is someone who rose to popularity throughout 2022 for his FNAF-centric content alongside the revival of the franchise with the release of Security Breach. Since then, it has been no secret that Theft has come to be regarded as one of the most controversial figures within the FNAF community that continues to still be a part of it. This video is actually a follow-up to one I made almost 2 months ago, so if any of you are interested in delving deeper behind the story of how it is that Theft earned the self-imposed title of quote-unquote black sheep within the FNAF community, then I'd recommend going back to watch that video before continuing onward with this one. The most important point to note though is that my intentions for making the aforementioned video have carried over here as well. I hope to establish a timeline of events for both publicly showcased controversies as well as questionable acts committed by Theft that went under the radar the first time around. I wish to simply lay out everything that Theft has been involved with thus far and let people reach their own conclusions of what to make of him. In fact, it was through that original video alone that I was able to interview the people you'll hear from today. If you've watched up to this point and are waiting with bated breath for the interview to commence, here are the timestamps for those sections in particular. However, I'd suggest watching the video in its entirety since this isn't the type of content I make often and is different than any old video. It's imperative that the matters brought to light be taken seriously, and I'll be laying out some ground rules for the upcoming segments. Firstly, I'll be starting from where the last video left off and bring up any notable controversies that Theft has been associated with that are publicly available to gawk at. This has nothing to do with the forthcoming interviews, but rather it simply serves to complete the timeline laid out in part 1. The events that transpired will be dictated with full transparency using knowledge and information that anyone can access. Sources will also be present in the description for those that wish to analyze the pieces themselves. However, for anyone that wants to hear my takes on the matter, I'm introducing a term called the vexitious unwarranted opinion just for that. Or well, as I like to call it. Jokes aside, I do think it's important for people to hear someone's reasoning behind their stance on different situations, since it allows everyone to gain an even better understanding and outlook by the end. Although I am well aware of how personal biases and unshakable truths are often intermixed with each other, and so to combat this, there will be a very clear indicator visible near the top left corner of the screen to specify when I am narrating my take. On top of that, any opinions will only be spoken once the details have been reported so that viewers can choose to march on with the video if they want to remain impartial. After that, we'll finally have the interviews play out. The initial one will be of King Coda, Theft King's editor, since they're also the first person I spoke to. The second portion will contain a lot of stories wrapped into one that were recounted by the likes of Thunder Dragon, Theft King's ex-artist, as well as the rest of the ex-moderators known as Stay Hydrated, Ghostly Banes, _, and a fourth individual who chose to stay anonymous but proved their association to Theft King. Lastly, nearing the absolute end of the video, we'll follow the same format for a conclusion as before. I'll be able to properly look at all the findings we've gathered and analyze them for what they are, and see if Theft has changed in any capacity from the old verdict. With all that out of the way, this has been more than enough preamble, so let's start off with the first topic of discussion since the last time we took a look at Theft's channel. A bit after the new year began, Theft posted a video with the title of quote-unquote another channel stole my video on the 8th of January. In it, Theft proceeded to call out a fellow YouTuber that had undoubtedly plagiarized the script from one of his older videos and sent it off to be remade as an original piece of content through a Fiverr hiring. The thing is though, Theft revealed the name of the channel, and it was obvious through that stolen video's description that it was merely a test to see how good of a product could be made by enlisting the help of someone from Fiverr to do it for you. While Theft did state that no person should reach out to the YouTuber and harass him in any way, it did inevitably raise the question of why the video was made in the first place. Theft could have privately contacted Stealth King and asked them to take the video down, which is something that was more than doable since he had already reached out to the channel before and had gotten a reply. And anyway, something tells me that a competitor with a maximum of 2,000 views on a video that they made isn't a challenge to Theft King's career. In hindsight, there wasn't any warranted need for the video. I failed to see what it accomplished that couldn't have been achieved through private communication. That being something that Theft mentioned was his responsibility anyway. So, it just confuses me more as to why this video was made in the first place. That too with the silhouette of a weasel added to the thumbnail, as well as the continuous disconnected and abrupt mentions of how Theft was allegedly the victim of other creators weaponizing their audiences against him. A term he likes to throw around quite often, and something you'll be hearing again later on in the video.
I've been the victim of others who've weaponized their audiences against me, so I absolutely condemn that sort of behavior. If I want to deal with someone who I believe plagiarized my video, I'll deal with it. I don't need you to deal with it for me.
While I can't peer into Theft's mind and decipher his intentions, it is obvious though that this video is contradictory at best and an attempt for Theft to victimize himself at worst.
I have gotten into arguments with him publicly. I'm not here to, talk about my opinions about him, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. But he did make a video recently where he called out a channel with less subscribers than me for using Theft King's script to send to an editor on Fiverr to see how good a Fiverr editor was. And that was a huge thing, and I'm still mad about that. Theft King, I guess, didn't even bother to read the description of the guy's video or whatever. But the point is, Theft King, who has 250,000 subscribers, decided to call out and make an entire video based around this one guy with less subscribers than me. And he, at the end of the day, he caused this guy undue harassment. It was just really off-putting to me. I want to make it known that the guy he covered is not the bad guy in this situation. Again, I'm not here to talk about opinions, but I'm just going to say that the small content creator was not the bad guy.
Okay.
And I'll cover details in my own video.
Gonna put a trigger warning for this topic. While nothing will be explicitly mentioned or discussed in great detail, here's the timestamp for when we have moved on from an immensely sensitive issue such as this. I'll give everyone a moment to decide whether they wish to continue forward or not. Ironically, I think it's best I let Theft King's video play in order to explain what this issue is in reference to.
One of the artists associated with FNAF, Lady Fiszi, has been in a lot of controversies over the years. In case you aren't aware, this is the artist who drew the covers for all of the Fazbear Frights books, the Fazbear Frights graphic novel collections, and even the first few Tales from the Pizzaplex covers. There were allegations of transphobia. They apparently drew very, very inappropriate fan art and very inappropriate fan fiction that depicted children in compromised scenarios.
So, what ended up happening was that Scott Cawthon made an announcement letting everyone know that this FNAF artist will no longer be a part of the community heading into the future. The majority of FNAF Twitter took to their Bird app and celebrated the firing of Lady Fiszi. Theft King thought that the situation was nothing to be happy about since this was a tragic incident and thusly wrote a tweet which couldn't properly illustrate his intentions due to poor wording. This led almost everyone to believe that he was simply defending a very, very bad person. It is understandable how this misunderstanding was derived since Theft's initial and subsequent tweets were admittedly confusing to say the least. Some of them were outright unhinged, and that's putting it lightly. This is coming from someone who saw them from an outsider stance, that being the entire demographic that the tweet reached. It's important for a public figure to remain informed and professional when creating a statement regarding an extremely sensitive issue that has nothing to do with them, and theft didn't meet the mark. Theft's additional comments of how he wasn't going to read the critics in his replies only added further fuel to the fire, since everyone should be open to criticism, both in their personal life or otherwise. And refusing to at least be open to the idea that you may be wrong is more self-destructive to yourself than anything. It would also be unfair to not include how, alongside the critics, there were also people that were just disrespectful and disgusting with the words they uttered. No one should have to receive such messages, but it's still important to separate the critics from the hateful masses. This should go without saying, but stating abhorrent things like this is wrong and should be condemned. But I can pair two things together at once and relay the obvious, that being how Theft could have handled the situation in a better way. Inevitably though, he released a video where he was able to articulate his thoughts and feelings much better. While I don't really care for the stance, since it just revolves around how celebrating the end of a continuous incident should not be the people's focus, I do want to declare that the acts committed by Lady Fiszi should be spoken about with careful intent. It is horrible what had happened, and people need to realize that this is no child's play, theft included. He should not have gone on to compare what Lady Fiszi did to his own personal anecdote. If you're unsure of what I'm talking about, it's best you see his video yourself, since as I'd said prior, these are delicate circumstances. The severity of the two examples I'm referring to are both of great concern and importance, but they should not be compared to one another. In the end, I believe that the FNAF community or theft or even me is not what matters in this scenario. I just hope that the victims involved have been able to find some form of justice and peace through Scott's announcement. I've rewritten this portion of the video 2 times already, since the story at hand is still a developing one. It's very plausible that newer elements will be revealed later, but for now, I'll just be talking about what we know so far in a manner of how it played out chronologically, as opposed to the haphazard and confusing way that the information was initially revealed. In all of this, a new challenger enters the battlefield by the name of Costi. Now, Costi is a relatively small, up-and-coming FNAF YouTuber who had joined both Theft and Uhyeah's Discord, since those two are undoubtedly notoriously famous creators within the Five Nights community. Upon browsing through Uhyeah's Discord, Costi stumbled upon a seemingly innocent channel that was ridiculing and attacking Theft King as well as King Coda by making fun of their appearances and so on and so forth. Thinking that this was unquestionably unethical and just downright immoral, Costi reported this to Theft and provided him with proof of his claims. Costi would face the unforeseen consequences for this act, since he would be quickly deemed a snitch.
Someone who is in both Theft King's server and Uhyeah's server told Uhyeah's moderation team that I was, I guess, snitching on them to Theft King, and they then began to relentlessly ping me, bully me, and mock my YouTube channel.
The duration that this ordeal lasted was about 10 minutes as proven by Uhyeah through Twitter. Keep that in mind though, since it becomes important when Costi took to Twitter himself and attempted to explain the situation that he'd unintentionally become a part of. By this point in time, Theft had made a snarky remark about this server under the guise of a thinly veiled threat that was more corny than anything. While Uhyeah had gone unnamed, the tweet portrayed it as though this mysterious YouTuber had organized the hate mob in a channel specifically meant to dunk on Theft, which is untrue as said before and as you'll find out later. Regardless, in hopes of clearing the air, Uhyeah had made a tweet proclaiming that he was the mystery dog and let everyone know that it wasn't intentionally malicious and that the perpetrators at hand were told to chill. This is when Costi joined the fray and tweeted out his version of events that had one key difference from reality. An inaccuracy was present with the amount of time that the pinging lasted for Costi. In his original tweet, Costi mentioned that it was for about an hour. Thinking that this false detail would lead to more confusion and reasonably assuming that the lie was intentional, Uhyeah quote tweeted Costi to simply correct the unintentional error. However, this would turn out to be an innocent mistake since it opened the gates to FNAF Twitter's foulest beings that rushed over to harass Costi despite Uhyeah's previous attempts of trying to mitigate the nightmare. Costi then made a video trying to put everything into proper perspective as he presumed that Uhyeah had quote-tweeted his thread in hopes that he'd be targeted. Again, just like with Uhyeah's side, this too was understandable. The calm before the storm arrived and Uhyeah commented on the video, which is when all the puzzle pieces finally started to fall into place. The video elaborated on Costi's side and the confusions he faced, while Uhyeah got to break it all down and reveal to everyone how it was his mods and members at fault. And then Uhyeah specified how he went even greater lengths at ensuring that no one was sought after on Twitter too. To better it all from his side, he even deleted the tweets he made that mentioned anything regarding Costi or Coda. All's well that ends well, or so it would seem. Costi replied to Uhyeah's comment over on his video and agreed with what he'd said. Uhyeah then asked if he could pin the comment to let everyone know of the truth. Costi would do that and Uhyeah would then make another request. That being around the title and thumbnail, which illustrated Uhyeah as the villain when he had already proven to Costi and to the public how he was not. He wished for it to be changed, and seeing how he took down his own tweets that had the potential to defame Costi, this was a sound ask. Costi instead ended up unpinning Uhyeah's comment with no apparent reason. Uhyeah subsequently commented for the fourth time, now visibly agitated and confused because of Costi's motives. When no reply was given, Uhyeah took to his second channel and released a response. In it, it was obvious that Uhyeah's tone was that of frustration and annoyance, which caused him to gloss over some tiny aspects, but overall, it illustrated everything as a Spark Notes recap. Uhyeah added some additional comments talking about his attitude in the video, saying how he was, as expected, drained. Alongside this, he even went into depth about why this response was posted on a secondary channel. Quote, "The reason this is not on the main channel is because I don't wish to give this situation any large amount of attention for both my sake and everyone else involved. The last thing we need is more harassment from fans of either side. Like I said, this is the last thing I'll say about this drama, and I'd just like to move on from all this for my mental health." End quote. And guess what? That too is understandable. In conclusion, what has this all led to? Well, if you're waiting for me to either put the spotlight on Uhyeah or Costi as the guilty party, then you'll be disappointed. Many have countered by saying that Uhyeah's biggest mistake was letting the harassment occur in the Discord in the first place. But seeing as how this is the first reported incident in regards to hate speech, that isn't on him in the slightest. The guy can't predict what his fans are gonna do, and I'm sure he must have been surprised when he found out what went down, since no one would appoint a bully as a moderator on purpose. His measures taken to correct the damage done are proof of this. Similarly, Costi's decision to make a video is just as valid. He had a right to defend himself on his biggest platform while making his experiences public, and as such, Uhyeah can do the same with his comments. In hindsight, both were unsure of the other's intentions, which led to these misunderstandings which harmed both creators in the long run. In the end though, Costi's choice to unpin Uhyeah's comment is what boggles me. Everything was said and done, and all he had to do was tone the intensity of the video down through the title and thumbnail, which would make sense on both ends since Costi's confusion is now cleared up with Uhyeah having come clean, and Uhyeah obviously not wanting an implied lie about him showing up in his audience's recommendations. I believe there's another chapter left before it all comes to an end. Costi and Uhyeah's hearts seem to be in the right place, and it pains me to see how a private discussion between the two that could resolve all this is not happening. Whether that changes or not is something only time can tell. One thing I'd like to add is how both Costi and Uhyeah are still presently making continuous strides in maintaining their respective crowds that support them and trying to keep everything under control. To me, no one party is to blame for any of this. That's it for current events though. I think it's time we dive into the personal recounts of Theft's moderation team. Before we begin, I'd like to give some proper context behind these interviews. Firstly, you don't have to believe these people. While each person has been able to provide proof that supports their tales, I can already sense a lot of skeptics that wish to take all this in with a grain of salt. In fact, Coda says the same.
Additional comments. Take anything I've said here with a grain of salt, because I am just one guy.
Regardless, there are already plentiful amounts of controversies out there that can be adequately used to hold theft accountable. Secondly, there will be little to no editing present throughout the interviews. Things such as music or irrelevant footage that may transfer over any of my subconscious biases will not be allowed. While I hope to make my videos entertaining, this is no laughing matter and will thus be treated as such. Hence, aside from accompanying evidence, there will be no dramatization. Instead, the interviewees will speak for themselves. Thirdly, aside from King Coda, everyone else imparted their experiences on a united Discord chat. Due to this, I'll be voicing over their messages and will try my best to adjust my voice to fit the tone of the story and its speaker. I'm no voice actor though, so excuse any inconsistencies. As you might have noticed, I've used some of King Coda's thoughts to supplement points throughout the video. The same formatting will continue with Coda's dedicated part of the interview. I'll be prioritizing having a fluid timeline of events rather than having the interview play out as it was recorded. This is due to how the interview was quite sporadic, with us jumping from point to point as Coda retold everything that came to their mind. Alongside that, a portion of that interview is also unrelated to Theft King altogether and has Coda discussing factors of their own life instead. So, while the interview will be edited in a structure that supports a linear narrative, I want to still ensure that things are as transparent as can be. This is why you can find a link in the description which leads to the interview in its entirety with no cuts or censorship of any kind. Anyone can listen to it. In fact, I encourage you all to. This allows me to make this video as digestible as possible in a way that isn't confusing for even your grandma, while staying true to mine and Coda's wishes of putting everything out there. Moreover, the secondary text-based interview with Theft King's moderation team will have all its citing pieces of evidence also be compiled into one large document that, again, anyone can view. This doesn't mean that it won't be played on screen. It simply means that you can read it all on your own time too, whether that be before, during, or after watching this video. Lastly, I'd like to thank everyone who chose to be a part of this massive video. It was an extremely humbling opportunity to get to speak with all these fellow creators and hear their side of the story. To recall once more, King Coda is who you will be hearing from in just a few. Afterward, we'll slowly go through what Thunder Dragon, Stay Hydrated, Ghostly Pains, and the fourth anonymous individual have to say. There will be a designated sign near the bottom left corner of the video to represent which speaker I'm narrating on behalf of. This goes without saying, but I have no input of my own to give. I'm just glad to be the messenger for these people that you can support yourself through a link tree that I've placed in the description. Without further ado, let's hear from King Coda themselves. Like to be referred to as in pronouns or anything else?
So I use
They, them.
pronouns, and you can just call me Coda.
And could you state your relationship with Theft King as well as the role you play in helping him with his YouTube channel before we begin?
Yeah, so I'm Theft King's editor. I help all sorts of things regarding the channel. So obviously I do the editing. Not all of the editing, mind you. I do some of it. He still does the majority of it, but I help out with smaller things. He'll usually give me sections of the video that I edit on my own, and you can't really tell which sections are the ones that I edit, which is the point. You're not supposed to be able to tell the difference in styles. But then I also do other things. Like sometimes I'll do some audio stuff for him. Like with his voiceover. Cutting down the voiceover, spacing it out. More recently, I've been doing the captions for his videos. So you go onto his videos, and I believe most, if not all of them, have subtitles, and those are usually done by me.
So would you consider yourself to be more of an employee or a contractor that Theft goes to whenever he needs help?
Contractor. I've been expressly told to refer to our relationship as independent contractor and client because
Okay.
if I were to be his employee, there would be like tax stuff because
Yeah.
the United States is very particular about that stuff. So I have no contractual obligation or I'm not expected to do any work. He'll come up to me and he'll be like, "Hey, I need help with this," or "I need you to do the captions for this video. Can you do that?" And it's up to me whether or not I want to take it. There's no like precedent set for me like having to edit videos, and there have been many times where I was like, "Sorry, I can't. I'm too tired," or "I need to work on my own video," because I still make content on my YouTube channel whenever I can, at least, in between everything else. So sometimes I have to prioritize my own channel over editing for him. Of course.
How long have you known Theft King?
So, oh my God, it's actually really funny how we came about meeting. So I was just scrolling through YouTube sometime in October. I was working at Olive Garden at this point, and I was just scrolling through YouTube, and I saw he made a video. I think it was on like the Baddington VHS tapes. But I watched the video. I was like, oh man, this guy's actually, he's pretty good at editing. I like, the video. I like the style. I like the content. I watched that video and then I kind of just scrolled off. But then I kept getting recommended more videos of him, and I was like, you know what, this guy's actually really good and he makes a lot of good content. So that's when I subscribed to him. Later on, I found out that he did live streams because I got a live stream notification for him, and I was like, oh wow, this guy does live streams. So I started to tune into his streams, and I became a regular in his streams. He started to recognize me whenever I was in chat. I donated like a lot of money to him because I was making a lot of money from my job, and I don't like having a lot of stuff, and I don't really do any like frivolous spending or anything like that. So I usually just give my money away to other people, through donations or whatever. Whenever I have it, I basically would donate like every stream, and at the end of Theft King's streams, he would do shout outs. Yeah, so at the end of one of his streams, I'd edited together this little fun meme video. He watched the video on stream. He was like, wow, this guy's editing is really good. Y'all should go subscribe to him. So he put my channel link in the description, and he subscribed to my channel on the stream. And I was like, oh wow, that's huge. I got like 50 subscribers from that. Right after that, I made a video, because I just gained a bunch of subscribers. My channel was in the spotlight at the time, so I was like, I'm gonna make a video introducing myself to all my new subscribers. And so I made that video, and it was really a stroke of luck that Theft King just so happened to open YouTube on the exact second that I uploaded that video. So he saw the editing on that, and he left a comment. The editing here is really good. Let me know if you want to help out with editing sometime. And, I was taken aback. So I was like, this guy with 200,000 subscribers, he's commenting on my video. And, that was huge because, I love editing and I've always wanted to make a career as an editor. My dream job is to just be an editor or just do YouTube full time. And I'm definitely working towards that. He has a Discord server, and usually after every stream he does, he'll go and be active in his Discord server and I'll talk with everybody. So after that stream, I went into his Discord server. This is the point where we kind of hit like this gray area. This was back in like the end of October, beginning of November. Back then, he did have an editor, but she, wasn't able to do as much because she works at Amazon back then and still does. So, she was doing like really long late night shifts, and Theft King would edit and still does edit at very strange times of night. Back then, it was very difficult to have any sort of meaningful conversation or communication with him. So here's how it went, basically. He contacted me, we started DMing, and he was like, all right, perfect. We'll discuss, how this is going to work, and we'll discuss payment. And basically what ended up happening is that like every single night after I would get off of work, he would DM me at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. or whatever. And, just out of nowhere. And we, we'd start up the conversation. We'd talk for like 10, 15 minutes. And then he would just randomly stop responding out of nowhere. It took like basically a whole week to settle payment. That was really frustrating, but we got past that. Keep in mind, right, this was in October, so this is after the whole Kane Carter thing. I didn't know about this guy previously, so somebody brought up something about, Kane Carter drama, and I was like,
Yeah.
What's this Kane Carter drama? And I was like, oh, this is interesting, so I decided to go back and watch some videos on the drama, and then I was like, oh, wow, this puts this guy certainly in a different light for me. Seeing
because you
this
weren't
side of this
previously aware of
person.
it. Yeah.
Is this really the guy I want to work for? Like this,
Yeah.
you would. I feel like anybody would be put off by that. And so I genuinely considered turning down the offer. Like after learning about the Kane Carter drama, I was like, I might not want to work for this guy. I thought about it, and it had been months since the drama happened. So I was like, you know what? I'm a firm believer of change and giving people second chances. I think people can change and grow in a short period of time. If I were him, I would want to be given a second chance. So I decided to give him a second chance. And the first video I ever helped him edit, unfortunately, it was his Bendy and the Ink Machine video, the one that got him into that bit of controversy way back in November, where he was like, Bendy looks bad. And that was, having a controversy be your first introduction to editing for a person isn't exactly the best way to go about it. And even when editing that video, I completely disagreed with all of his opinions, and I still do. There was a little bit of a scandal that happened with another content creator named Ambience, who makes guides on Five Nights at Freddy's and who was involved in the big Uhyeah video with the Chipper and Sons. I think it was like I can't remember if it was like they were trying to beat like the 50-20 mode equivalent or if it was like a speed run or something. But Astral Spiff, Plane Trace, Ambience, they were all helping out with that. So basically what happened was on Twitter, in the replies to all of Theft King's tweets, there would be, his fans who would, be like, oh, hi, Theft King, you're cool, you're an awesome guy. And then Ambience's subscribers and, Ambience himself would be replying to those comments with an image of a man pointing towards the camera with the text cockmuncher, because they were like making fun of them, being like meat riders or whatever. I don't know. That went on for a while. Eventually Ambience, I think, tweeted at Theft King or something saying, oh my god, I've been bullying this guy in his Twitter replies for months, how has he not noticed? And then Theft King decided to turn it into this whole thing, being like, oh my god, this guy has been bullying me and my followers for months now, and he just made this whole stink about it on Twitter. It was at this point where I started to have my doubts about Theft King, and I started to, just not really like the guy all that much. When this whole thing happened, I actually decided to reach out to Ambience on Twitter. He told me about his experience with Theft King. Now, there are some things that happened in those Twitter DMs that I can't talk about.
Of course.
Because, he did tell me some things which further shook my perception and image of Theft King. That was a whole thing that happened. I joined Ambience's Discord server. We talked for a little bit. And then this is when Ambience's server members decided to start raiding the Theft King Discord server. And that was a huge point in the server lore, because we were just getting raided by Ambience subscribers who were trolling. They were posting like gore images, like, 18 plus stuff. It was really bad. That really shook the server a lot and changed the way it worked forever. Because now, whenever you join the server, there is a role you get in the server that it is basically a verification role. And if you don't have two-factor authentication turned on your account, then you can't like send images or embeds or anything. It's called the not purple guy role, and that was made specifically to prevent ambience, subscribers and server members from posting any more images in the server. So now there's like a whole lot of anti-raid measures and stuff, and that was a whole huge thing. This is where I get to talk about the way Theft King handles controversy and my first-hand experience with it. Whenever Theft King gets into a squabble with another content creator, he will do this thing where he bans people from using their name in his Discord server. And so it took 5 different people to convince Theft King to not blacklist the word ambience, because that was his first reaction to all this. He was like, I'm going to blacklist the word ambience. And it took us saying like, okay, well, you're a FNAF channel. This is a FNAF server. Five Nights at like ambience is probably the most used word in conjunction with FNAF, so you can't do that. Also, ambience is a very common word in the English language, so you can't really just do that. We got into a little bit of a controversy between me and ambient server members, where I think they asked me how much I got paid doing one of his videos. And keep in mind, this was back when I basically wasn't doing anything. And I was like, oh, he gave me like $30 to do these subtitles. Now, $30 for subtitles is a lot. This is what it boiled down to, right? Theft King asked me to do the subtitles for his it's the one you might have seen where the thumbnail was like Baddington Foxy model or something, and text said gay Foxy. I did the subtitles for that video. At the time, I didn't know that you could just bring in the video into Premiere Pro and have Premiere Pro automatically do the captions for you. Basically, what ended up happening, I spent 8 hours hand typing and coding an SRT file in Windows Notepad, doing the subtitles for a 10 or 11 minute long video, when I could have spent like maybe an hour tops doing it in Premiere Pro. So basically what that boiled down to was people took it at face value, saying, oh wow, this guy did 8 hours of work just to get $30. That was a huge controversy in the server. It never really left the server. It kind of leaked onto Twitter a little bit, but it wasn't enough for anybody to really catch wind of it. And so that was the point where Theft King had to tell me, hey, you're not allowed to talk about payment anymore, because I don't need people getting the idea that you're being underpaid. Theft had assumed that it had taken me like maybe 45 minutes. So when you put that into account, $30 for 45 minutes or an hour is like really good. He pays me on average well above minimum wage for my state, which is $15 an hour. So he pays me more than that when you compare the amount he pays me to the amount of hours I work. So like it's not really unfair by any means. January rolls around, and January was a month where I was not feeling my best. I was super depressed. Thanksgiving, actually, of last year, the day before Thanksgiving, I was fired. And so I had no job outside of editing for Theft. I have Theft King to thank for getting me through that month between November and December, where I basically had nothing. And editing for him he helped me, be able to afford my phone bill. I was able to afford food, and, obviously that was huge. So, I do have a lot of respect for him for, helping me get through that. It was at this point where I set up a Ko-Fi as well, so people could donate to me and my channel, and I got a lot of donations, super, super generous people. And then I was able to finally secure a job and I'm doing good now. Now we catch up to now, where Theft King's last few videos have been doing super successful, and I'm way more experienced as an editor. I've started to he's been giving me way more stuff to edit, like a lot more stuff to do. The channel's been doing really good. He's at like 260,000 subscribers right now. He gained like 40,000 in the last 2 weeks, which is really cool. I'm happy for him for that. I have been in a lot of arguments with him. There have been points I got banned from his Discord server at some point, and then I got let back in, and then I immediately got banned again. So I've been banned from his server twice, which is just crazy to think about now. But the server itself has kind of fallen off because basically the entire core moderation team was pretty much fed up with theft and the way that he dealt with moderation in the server, which was he didn't. Theft King basically, as far as I know, provided no support to his moderators in his Discord server. Whenever he did provide quote-unquote support, it was just him making executive decisions to do whatever he wanted. Like, when he unbanned me the first time, he did not discuss with the moderation team. Theft King doesn't interact with his mods, really. Which makes it pretty much impossible for them to do their job. And so now if you join the server now, it's dead. That's a whole thing with him. That's a problem I have with him is communication is probably our biggest thing. You can see this especially with our most recent experience between each other, where Theft King decided that he was going to let me do an entire minute of video all on my own. Here's where I get into the more technical aspects of what it's like to edit for him, because I've just sort of been generalizing. So let's get into the actual workflow. This is what it's like to edit for Theft King, right? I don't know where I get a DM from him asking him to, or asking me if I can edit for him, and then I say yes or no. Usually, what Theft King likes to do is he will start editing the night before the video goes up. So he doesn't take his time. He doesn't take the week to plan out the videos he's going to make. It's literally just, hey, I'm going to make this video today. So he'll start at 10 p.m. He'll start writing the script at 9. He'll finish it by 10 or 11. Then at 10 or 11, he'll record the script. He'll finish that by midnight. And then at around midnight, he'll cut down the voiceover, and then he'll put it into Premiere Pro, and then he'll send me the files, and then we'll start editing 8 hours before the video goes up, basically. I have this very small window of time to really do any editing for him at all. And this was a problem because I'm autistic, I have ADHD, I have a very specific way of doing things, and especially when it comes to the way I edit my own videos, I like to take my time. I like to sit down, I like to watch through all of the clips I have multiple times so that I can familiarize myself with the content, so that I know exactly what I need when I need it. And then when I'm actually, done watching back the clips, when I get to the actual editing and the cutting down of footage, what I do is I think. I like to spend time to imagine and visualize what I want the video to look like so that I can, put that into action. Theft King does not do that. What Theft King does, he just sits down and basically goes full turbo mode and just completely locks in and goes into his ultra hyper efficient editing mode for 8 hours straight. He just sits down and just edits for 8 hours. I can't do that. I can't sit down and do anything for long periods of time. Whenever I rush myself, that's when I make my worst content. That's why I don't post as often. People in my comments will tell me, oh no, the video was good, the editing is good, but I don't see it that way. It's fine, getting positive feedback, but if you know that you can do better and you know that you can reach a certain standard of content and you don't reach that with a video, it doesn't matter whatever feedback you receive on your video. It maybe if we started editing a day before instead of 8 hours before, then sure, I'd definitely be able to do more stuff for him. But he wants to stick with what he's doing right now, which is fine, right? right? Like, you shouldn't have to change yourself. When he's trying to, like, train me up, and when he's trying to make me a better editor, it's kind of hard to do that if he doesn't give me the time to do my best work, because what he's seen so far is not my best work. My best work is on my YouTube channel, which obviously, he doesn't have the time to watch every single one of my videos. I'll send him a clip, and then he'll give me feedback on that, and he'll be like, hey, this is really great. But outside of that, he doesn't see that in his own videos because he doesn't give me enough time to put it in his own videos. That we had a huge argument about that recently. Basically, it boiled down to I'm not going to keep editing for you if you can't give me the time that I need in order to edit for you. Like, you're making this job way more difficult than it is. So he's definitely doing better with communication. Starting in 2023, he started linking my channel in the description of his videos. So you'll go into the description of his videos, and you'll see edited by Theft King and King Coda. In the most recent FNAF VHS videos, before I did any editing, he sent me the YouTube links to the VHS tapes so that I could watch them beforehand, because that was earlier VHS videos that sparked this whole argument between us. Was he gave me all this, like, footage and stuff, and he was like, okay, you have 8 hours, edit this section. He didn't let me watch the clips. He didn't let me, familiarize myself with the content before I did anything. And that's been way more efficient, because now I've been able to do more since I know exactly what to put where, since I've already seen it before. Theft King, for some reason, I don't really know why, but he's not, like, expressly open about me being his editor. Like, he doesn't, like, actively try and hide it. Whenever I'm in his streams, sometimes we'll joke about, editing and stuff. And then, whenever somebody asks, he'll be like, yeah, Coda's my editor. Outside of his live streams and his Discord server and, like, the description of his videos, nobody really knows who I am. Obviously, I'm not here for fame, right? I'm not here to get famous. I'm here to edit. But, if you're a content creator and you have an editor, it's just, I wish, I guess, my relationship with him was less professional and more, friendly. That relationship that, MatPat has with his editors, or Markiplier has with Lixian, or, Jacksepticeye has with Robin and his whole editor. Like, I want to be able to, like, have fun with the editing and, do goofy things in the videos, or hell, just to have him, be open about and just talk about, me being his editor, and, have more interactions, on Twitter or in his server, or just in DMs, or just in general. I just wish the relationship between us was more than that, and not just, strictly just business-like. I really do want to be able to, like, have fun with this whole thing, and I just kind of can't do that with the way we work currently. And I legitimately have not a single time in all of the months that I've been editing for him, I have not been in a private VC with him. I got into a private VC with Uhyeah before I got into a private VC with Theft King.
With Ambience, you got into contact with them after everything went down between them and Theft. And while you can't mention, and shouldn't, I wouldn't want you to mention anything that you can't, you did mention that, like, Ambience's fans or friends of some kind from their Discord server started raiding Theft's Discord server. Would you say that,
Yes.
like, Ambience was behind that, or would you just say that it was their fans?
I mean, it's like all this stuff happened months ago, so I'm going to be open about it. Ambience was behind it. Like, a few people in the Discord server that at least at first, Ambience was behind it. Eventually, so you have to keep in mind that Ambience is a kid. So obviously, he's a teenager. He's going to be doing a little trolling. He's going to be having a little fun. But after a few days, he was just like, I'm done with the trolling. You guys can do whatever you want. And then after that, it was just his server members that were doing the trolling. But at first, it was Ambience who was in charge of it.
So you think of Ambience very favorably, right? Like, you two are on good terms.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. We're still friends on Discord. We haven't really interacted that much after the whole... We just, drifted apart naturally. But,
Of course,
like,
yeah.
no, I'm still going... I'm on good terms with them.
So if you don't mind me asking, what was the point? And this is a more general question as well. If there are many things that you don't agree with Theft on, whether that be with his videos or the way he is on Discord, what point is there for you to edit for him? What makes you want to do that?
That is a very complex and nuanced question that has a lot of different answers. So I'll try and answer it the best that I can. Obviously, there are things about editing for Theft that I don't enjoy. And most people, I think, would have quit at this point. Despite our disagreements and despite how I may feel about his workflow and the way we work together, at the end of the day, I'm still editing for a large YouTuber. And I'm still gaining experience. Like, I'm still learning things that I've never learned before. And, I'm still getting money from editing for him. So I'm not going to say it's a money-driven thing. It's more of just being able to have that experience as an editor. If I could get a job with a larger content creator and get a more stable job and, get paid more with that, I might leave. But at this point, I've ingrained myself so much in his community that, I'm not only just here for myself and my own experience, I'm also here for them, because most of my subscribers are his. We share a community, and I do have an influence, at least over his Discord community, a very slight influence, especially since I'm so close with his moderators. It's a lot of things. There's a lot of layers to it. But so I can't really give you any one answer, but
that makes sense.
It's the experience.
Yeah. Moving on, you've gone into depth about how you don't agree with some of the things that he's done and said and worked on, but I also imagine that there are a lot of videos of his that you enjoy, or his style of work or something, because I'd gone through his Twitter and there are a lot of things that you congratulate him on. So I imagine it's not all unhealthy business stuff. I'm sure that there's a great part of you that enjoys what he does and the content he provides.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I do like to bring light to and talk about all the bad things, because I think it's important to do that. No, there are definitely a lot of things, a lot of videos that I've really enjoyed making and that I have a lot of fun with, especially recently. We were going to handle things differently moving on, and I'm not here to spread opinions. I will say that arguing with him doesn't really get anywhere, because he's very, very, very confident and set in his own values. So changing his opinions is very, very rare. I was able actually to convince him, at least slightly for a moment, that him making that video on that small content creator was not a good idea. But now, whenever a video does exceptionally well, he'll give me a bonus. So he'll give me however much I get from that video, and then if it does more than a certain amount of views, then he'll send me some extra money for a performance bonus. So I'm getting paid more now, which is nice.
I went back today only to look at the comments under my video regarding Theft, and I noticed that under Ambience's comment, where he stated his own experience, you commented saying, "I pray he doesn't see this." What was the intention behind that? Do you think he'll freak out, or what's the story?
Yeah, so with that comment, those things that Ambience commented, he also talked about with me in private, in Discord, or on Discord, but in Twitter DMs. So Theft King doesn't really like it when people bring up his controversies or talk about the bad things he's done publicly. So leaving a comment like that was pretty ballsy, a pretty ballsy move for Ambience to go out and do that. Now, I will say, and this I just learned this recently, actually, after bringing up the whole thing with Extra Stealthy, I think is what they're called now. He does not watch
like all the videos that are made about him. In fact, this is a funny thing that most people probably don't know. Kane Carter's response video to Theft King, he never watched it. Theft never watched Kane Carter's like official response video. He made Theft. He made his "I lost 20,000 subscribers" video, and that was it. Like he never watched Kane Carter's response. He never watches like any video that is made on him. He might have seen your video in his recommended feed, and he might have watched like a little bit of it, but I doubt it, because I feel like if he did, he probably would have left a comment saying something snarky or whatever. But yeah, no, he doesn't watch anything that's like made about him. So, I'm a little bit more confident because I commented on your video, and I was like, yeah, this is all pretty accurate. And I didn't want to get into the specifics because I didn't want to put all that out publicly, because I know from experience that if I do try and make my grievances public and try and talk about it, that he's going to get mad, and that would not go over well. So, but after learning that he basically just doesn't watch anything made about him, yeah, I'm definitely a lot more confident about coming to you like this now.
Given the fact that you've stated again and again how you feel as though that he'll react negatively towards anyone, especially people that he knows or people that know him, airing their grievances, are you still completely up for the fact of making your own video that you said you wanted to make, or this going in mine?
Yeah, no, I don't have any qualms about that. Like I said, I am eventually going to make all of this public and go more into detail about my own opinions about him, because here I've just stated facts and things that have happened. Eventually, I want to give my own take and share my own experiences as a person. Like, yeah, no, I'm fine with all this being public and going into like a video on your channel, and again, obviously, I'm gonna be making my own video on my channel eventually. So like, yeah, I don't really care too much about that. What happens, and if he wants to retaliate against me for expressing my opinions, then whatever. At the end of the day, I've had my experiences with him, and I'm not going to work for him forever. Unless his channel like massively blows up and he gets like 1 million subscribers, or he really starts to get into the light of things. Eventually, I am going to have to move on to other things.
And
of course,
we reached the point of the interview where I don't have any more questions to ask. You can take the stage for yourself and add any additional comments you feel are necessary or important, but I don't have anything else to ask.
Additional comments. Take anything I've said here with a grain of salt, because I am just one guy. Wait until I don't want to try and be a jerk and like self-promote, but like wait to form any like solid opinions until my video comes out, where I have the opinions and experiences and facts from multiple different people before you decide to make any concrete opinions for yourself. Because I don't want anybody to come from this saying, "Oh, Theft King's a bad person," or Theft King's a good person. I don't want anybody to use this to make any opinions.
Of course.
I just want people to know the facts, and that's it. Subscribe to Vexidus and
subscribe to King Coda.
Watch the videos. Yeah, no. You can do that too if you want to, but Vexidus posts more often than I do, so you might find more content with him. But yeah, no, I don't really have anything else. I said everything that I wanted to.
My experiences with Theft King as an artist for him boiled down to a couple simple things: not knowing how to properly commission artists and lack of organization for payment. While we may have come to an agreement at this point, I don't think it invalidates the pain I went through originally. My first experience with the man, I made a server icon for him as fan art. He had asked in the general chat if anyone was interested in making one, and not expecting payment, I spent more than a couple hours making it. It was highly detailed and I was proud of it. He liked it and offered to pay for it. Overjoyed that I was considered for this, I said yes, and after he asked for my PayPal, I sent it to him. It took him 12 days to tell me my PayPal code wasn't working and ultimately to actually pay me. Not having a price sheet and him never actually telling me how much he'd pay me, I was surprised to see that he paid me only $25 for something that I had spent hours on. I figured this was normal, however, and moved forward. My thrill at doing art for a YouTuber outweighed my concerns at the time. Ultimately, without spending an eternity going over each proposed project, over time as I did emotes for this man and was paid for projects, he would continuously lowball me on price. Not being experienced in commissions before this and being intimidated by a YouTuber who, in my eyes, was famous, I would accept these low payment offers without complaint. I didn't know how to start to ask for more, because what if he dropped me as an artist entirely? Even after an official price sheet was made and was publicly announced on his server, he did not pay me those prices. I had posted all my socials and price sheet in a forum. He commented on the post and he did not follow it himself. Later, this would be because he would say he offers a large influx of work than a normal commissioner, and what he offers is what he could pay. Projects he'd offer me were ultimately declined because the amount of work requested was in no way equatable for the amount I was receiving monetarily. He in some places would not credit me for art made in the past, but as I no longer am associated with him, I no longer want credit on my art. For a more recent deal, we had been discussing price for a t-shirt design. I had made it clear I wanted to do a scaling payment based on the units sold, something he did not want to do. In fact, he did everything in his power to instead have me accept his flat rate offer, including telling me someone else would totally take his offer, and I was just as skilled as someone else. This project, with me as the artist that is, won't ever move forward. In relation to recent events on Theft King's Twitter involving me, I had never had a Twitter that I actually used to post before a couple days ago. But when I did go on there, I saw a person who was still riding the cloud of the drama that was more than 6 months ago. Not happy my art, high-resolution versions of the emotes I did, which was never meant to be released to the public, were being used for tweets that were ridiculous to post half a year after his controversy. I made a tweet that really was throwaway but really hurt theft. Quote, using my art for arguably shitty posts like this is indeed bad. End quote. While I could have gone to him in DMs, I felt the need to publicly denounce my association with this man who was making statements that drag my name to the mud too by association. Ultimately, I asked him to completely remove my artwork from his pages. The price he offered to buy out all my hours of hard work was laughably low at first when following the worth. Based on my price sheet, it totals to be at least 3 times what he offered me out of, quote, an attempt at a clean break, end quote. As of now, we have come to an agreement where he has full and complete rights over the artwork I've made for his YouTube channel and Discord server. I feel adequately paid for said copyright transfer, and I have no hard feelings for him now regarding that. But I feel like this could have never been a problem in the first place. I hope he could take this recounting of my experience and do better with his next artist. Give them the credit they deserve, pay them more than you think they're worth, and really be cognizant on how you make your artist look via your actions. I don't recommend being an artist for him, but if you do, it's imperative that you stand up for yourself and actively negotiate and tell him when you feel you're not being paid enough. Be your own best advocate, but even if you're not an artist for him, you should rethink moderating for him too. In addition to my art struggles with the man, as a moderator, we as a moderating group would commonly bring ideas for improving the community and the server as a whole, and be shot down time and time again. When he gets something in his head, he doesn't consider any other option. He wants to see the server expand exponentially, but quotes no to anything that makes the server less intimate for new members. He doesn't want it to feel mechanical, even if that's what the server needs to thrive and grow. He treats his Discord server like he's still a 2K YouTuber, when in actuality, he's a 200K YouTuber. Because of his resistance to change, the server was suffering. Raids were launched on the server with only a couple staff, me being one of them, to actually combat that. When a true admin role was taken away, every server change or tweak had to go through theft. A person who was understandably busy and would take upwards a day to multiple days without doing said requirement or outright telling us no. If he did do it, there was also a chance that he did not do it right. Beforehand, the staff forum was NSFW locked and some of the staff couldn't view it at all. He's claimed to have fixed it and it wasn't ever truly fixed. No admin meant changes happened even slower, and any administrative duties were no longer anything we could perform. And if he did it wrong, expect that change to last upwards to a week of reminding him in DMs and staff chat. I could not begin to describe how frustrating it was that he would chat in general and ignore an important ping in his staff chat, with no requirement for moderators to at least be active sometimes or during times that work for them, or any vetting requirements other than who we thought would be a good candidate. We had holes in moderating times where one person would have the whole workload of moderating 1600 plus members. It was a nightmare. Then he came down hard on us and told us it was his way or the highway essentially. He mandated that there would never be admin ever, and that every word he said would be absolute law. Before this, we had been operating under a democracy, supporting each other, and if younger mods had questions, senior staff could assist them. A lot of new policies were introduced this way, like an update to the rules, definition as to what would get you immediately banned, etc. In this way, we built upon each other, and making decisions as a cohesive group meant we were on the same page and nobody was out of the loop why someone was timed out or banned, since the information was readily accessible. When theft said, quote, "I make the decisions," end quote, it essentially undoes all that. Changes that could truly benefit the server could be completely dismissed. It leaves room for people to be in the dark about changes or why someone was punished or unbanned, something Theft loved to do on occasion without ever giving us a heads up. He unbanned one member without warning to moderators 3 times, not because they appealed or were approved, but rather because they went into his streams and donated money, pestering him until he just unbanned them. Nothing like that should be acceptable. He treats his prime members with so much more leniency and respect than he does his staff. As of now, I understand he has 2 admins again. I'm glad for this. I don't know what caused this necessarily, what changed his mind to allow for something he banned entirely beforehand. But I'm glad he's seemingly allowing the server to grow and be helped, even if the cost was the server in its old state. I'm hoping with the bringing back of admin we can see the server more easily adapt to the struggles it will face in the future. But I don't think recent events that are good should mean we forget the struggles it took to come back to a neutral ground. Ultimately, the staff team are volunteers. There's a difference between that and paid moderators. Paid moderators' interests fall with the owner, whereas the community moderator's interests fall with the community they are serving. He seemingly wants the attitude and the yes man mindset of a paid moderator without paying his moderators. The interests are different, and so I ultimately left his staff team and want those who want to be his staff to rethink it. He isn't a good leader in my eyes. A good leader listens and takes in what his team wants and needs. If my Tales of Woe does anything else, I hope it makes you think twice about being staff for him in any capacity. It's something longer, lol. I figured it was important to give credit where credit is due. I won't be including any screenshots of our DMs during the time I asked for him to remove my art, since I feel like that would be too private, and obviously doesn't reflect where we are right now. So in the earlier part of the first half of 2022, I found Theft King's channel. It was sitting at approximately 50k subscribers if I remember correctly. I was there pretty early to his channel. I don't know how many subscribers or videos he had at the time, but it wasn't exactly too much. I thought he was a cool new content creator to subscribe to, and I did. At this time, he wasn't exactly a known figure and wasn't controversial in the slightest. A small while later, he started live streaming on YouTube and I decided to watch. I actually ended up liking it so much that I spent the whole stream time there and talked with people in chat for a long time. Sometime in early July, after a short while of watching his streams and interacting with chat, he made me a moderator during a downtime with no mods in chat. This was shortly after the pair, so he was in a controversy, but that blew over mostly. All that to say, there was a time where he was liked and I did like him and his content. It only started to go downhill when Theft King decided to inject himself into his massive July drama, which would slope down into what we have today. But you know that part already. The meat of this message is in my drama with him in September. The previous month, I had released a video on him and posted it in his server, basically saying my goodbyes to the community and exit from his moderation team while explaining some of the drama from a mod's perspective and giving my reasons for leaving. He was not happy about that as he DM'd me the next day and blocked me on Discord. There was already an aura of conflict around us, but I thought I was done with him after. After I made that server, I needed some moderation, so I got the help of my friends/acquaintances, some of which happened to be Theft's mods. Someone let Theft know about this and he entered my server not under an alt account but just as his regular self. He wasn't even trying to hide his intentions. He joined my server to find out which of his mods were in mine and threatened to demote them if they didn't leave. Of course, him being much bigger and more intimidating, they left. I was confirmed about the exact reason later, which is in an image below of his YouTube moderator chat. His reasoning being that he just didn't want them associating with me. I called him out on Twitter for this highly insecure and man-child-like behavior, as you'd have to be just that highly insecure to keep a teenager who hurt your feelings online in your head rent-free for as long as he did. He responded by blocking me and shit-talking me publicly in his server. He falsely accused me of being an anti-Theft King server by a single joke me and my friends made in the announcements channel. He thinks I regret what I did when I don't in the slightest. He was being highly insecure and calling out a teenager who was barely any threat to him in his public Discord server, giving me the nickname Voldemort and blocking out my name. He also blocked me on Twitter. That's where my part directly with him comes to an end. He still has me in his head rent-free when making server decisions because he doesn't want quote-unquote another Voldemort. He is a man-child that cannot be taken seriously and a controlling one at that. He should be, in my opinion, deplatformed and all of his status should be taken away, as he clearly shows that he isn't deserving of that power. I have a Twitter thread containing the September drama images. I'm not very good at spelling or stuff, so here we go. Theft King was a former boss of mine who was a horrible quote-unquote friend and a horrible boss. I remember I asked him what his favorite character from a show was in DMs trying to be friendly. Theft never responded, and when I caught him in his server's general chat, he publicly shamed me for it. He has been horrible to work with, never listening to what we said or asked for. A common issue we had was no admin to fix simple things, as Theft was a busy guy writing videos and such. But his lack of trust was shocking to us because we had stuck with him despite everything. When we finally fought back, he forced us down saying things wouldn't change. I did not want to come back, but he had unblocked me on Twitter and came into my DMs guilt-tripping me into coming back. I wish that Theft would also stop flexing his analytics anytime he does, because it just creates a weird power dynamic. If you aren't famous or have any talent to Theft, you are useless. I only made it to where I was by putting in sheer work and hours into his community. I've asked for him to get better and he hasn't. Change must happen. I'm gonna TLDR 10 months until I get a proper thing written with. Theft King is horrible at working with people. He's never responsive and wants things his way. He doesn't like feedback or people telling him what to do, even if that's advice that would help him not get into huge drama. He's very much a distrustful individual and has a history of being terrible even to people he considers friends. He's self-righteous and toxic towards anyone trying to help, and unless you are a yes man, he doesn't really care what you say unless he thinks the same is true. Otherwise, he will simply disregard everything. He also has zero teamwork skills. Thus why the server is terribly managed, because he doesn't want any changes unless he makes them, as he is the sole person to do so. No one else. He disregards concerns brought forward about things he says and hopes things will just go away or be ignored, and is just blatantly horrible to anyone he doesn't benefit from. He is always looking to get into DMs with people who can benefit him, such as Ray, 1000 Dumplings, who is a former Backrooms wiki writer, or Universe, who was first able to give insight onto FNAF code and is now a juniors developer. I have zero idea how nitty-gritty in detail I should go, but I felt I needed to get at least something out, as we have been delaying this far too long. Also, for now, I shall remain anonymous. And that wraps it all up, to be honest. I've been able to relay everything that I wish to update the general public on while pairing it with the statements of those that have closely worked with Theft in the past. As stated by both Coda and I already, no one is obligated to rush over to side with any of the people in this video if they are skeptical about anything that they have discussed. None of us hope to influence anyone's bias or thoughts in an inaccurate way. If anything, take this video as a warning and a case study of what not to do if any of you ever reach Theft's pedestal of internet popularity. I've brought attention to things he's done that got massive amounts of hate, but also other aspects of the story that went unseen and deserve to be equally highlighted. With my 2 videos combined, everyone can catch up on almost all of the theft lore within 2 hours and judge him for themselves. One thing I will mention from an analytical point of view though is how each interviewee's experiences closely relate to the conclusions I made about Theft's personality near the end of the first installment of this expose. So take those observations for what you will. After I'm done speaking in the present, you'll hear the last 2 points from Coda's interview where we break down how accurate my evidence-based judgments were. All in all, this is the last time I'll be covering theft ever again. I feel like I've accomplished what I hoped to achieve, and once again, none of this would have been possible without the help of everyone involved with this video. If there are any more announcements worth my documentation, I'll simply make a tweet if need be. So follow me at YTVexodus if you'd like to hear more from me. But do keep in mind that King Coda will eventually release their own video on Theft King. So there's more content to await if any of you are interested. Until next time though, this has been Vexodus, and see ya.
You joined at a point editing for him where a lot of the brunt of the controversy that he was a part of had subsided. And
Yep.
especially if, like after the Kane Carter controversy, Theft had gone on record to state how he'd improved the way he approached making videos with the information within them and how they were presented on YouTube. While I imagine that because you joined so late, if there was any major change that would have happened prior, but would you still say that you've noticed a change in the way he behaves towards his videos?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. He has improved a huge amount. Like, he's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But there's absolutely a massive improvement. And just overall as a person, I've been able to see him improve and watch him like grow and change. So yeah, of course, he's definitely gotten better.
So knowing this and saying what you have, would you still consider my video on him, a conclusion that I reached at the end, to be valid? Or do you think that there's like something that's changed just in the past month since I uploaded the video, or even in general? Would you say that that video is still accurate?
I'd say that video is still accurate. He still has issues with the way that he handles and tackles everything. You know, I was going to remain silent until you brought it up, so that I could talk about it naturally. The points that you talked about, especially at the end, where you summarized, all the things that were wrong with him, those points still remain true. There are a few things in there that have changed, but overall, your assumption of him is still true. Like in private, in confidence, and I'm sure still, in other places publicly, he still does act in the way that you summarized. So your video, as of now, is still accurate. So maybe that will change. Hopefully, it'll change in the future. As of now, the majority, like 98% of the points, are still accurate.